Hello. Sound off in chat if you can see, if you can hear me. I'm getting a little warning notice on the stream, but as ever, we'll fuck about with this tune and then let people filter in. I might get do something a bit more chilled out for when we actually start. But welcome to the stream, and yeah, we'll get started in a sec. Welcome everyone. Glad to see that there's some folk here. All right. Yeah, let's get started with let's get started with a more chilled out tune before we start on actually figuring out what to talk about today. We've got some things that we can discuss. Just got confirmation that an article I've written with my friend Kian on the neoliberal fascism nexus, or is for a special issue in Distinction Journal. And the article is called The Hidden Roots of Neoliberal Fascism, Race, Gender and the Intensification of Hegemony. And got confirmation today that after a lengthy editorial process that will finally be coming out, so we can talk a bit about the arguments in that, how fascism is emergent from the boundaries, the bedrock of neoliberalism, and I'll make a video about that. I'll start putting together a video about that soon enough. And we can talk, I guess we can talk about some of the... something I would want to talk about is the analytic Marxism and the essay in New Left Review rebuking analytic Marxism, because that's fun. And it's sort of, I've been reading a bit of value theory stuff, and that's all tied in together with the analytic Marxism kind of bullshit. I might edit my change my camera a bit, so cause I'm quite small in this frame, haven't I? But we'll do that once we've made up a tune. As it is now, let's get a relaxed tune on the go. And as ever, if you've got any other stuff that you want to talk about, just let me know. I recorded an interview with my friend Martin Crook, who wrote the book Capitalism, Colonization and the Ecocide Genocide Nexus, and I'm going to put that interview up for patrons and channel members soon, probably on Monday. And I'm also going to record a video on that book that patrons can already see the script for that. And I'm going to integrate some of the interview into the video. And then once that's all up in a few weeks or a month or so, I'll put the full interview up for everyone as well. So things going, we're making content. We're still making content here. Let's see what tunes we can make though. I'm gonna have to do that again because I fucked it up. accidentally made an Audio Slave song. Alright, how do we think of that? I think that's quite nice. That's quite a nice way to start it, I think. We've got some kind of Audio Slave, one of the chilled out Audio Slave style tracks going. We've got a strong zero grapefruit flavour. Everything's fine. 20 people are here. We can bump up those numbers. Fucking like the stream, you know what, you know the drill. And yeah, then we can get chatting. So I guess the first thing that we could that's worth discussing is this development of the grapefruit flavour is very nice. One thing that is worth talking about before we get into anything is so me and my flatmate are having a Halloween party tomorrow, and the costume that I've decided to do, one that I've been meaning to do for a while, is has anyone seen Little Shop of Horrors? So my costume would be to be the dentist from Little Shop of Horrors, partly because I hate going to the dentist. The dentist is a genuine thing I hate. I have had so many bad experiences in the old dentist. And the Little Shop of Horrors, the dentist is just a guy who loves inflicting pain. It's one of his. It's the whole song he does is. My mum was like very clear that you love inflicting pain. So there's only one career that you will be happy doing. Son, you're a dentist. So I'm gonna go as the dentist from Little Shop of Horrors. But crucially, I have bought the cat that would have been well planned. I think the thing that was going to make the costume is that I bought the cat a little flower hat, so the cat can be Audrey too, the man-eating plant. And he's already getting into character with that, because this morning he did bite my foot so hard that he drew blood in like 3 places. So he's really sort of taken on the role as Audrey too, and really does want to eat me, which is great that he's got a passion for acting. I think that maybe he should hold off on that until until the party, until he's got his little hat on. But he does hate the hat. Well, I know he likes to eat the hat. The hat is made of it's like a little knitted hat. I've got it over here. This is the hat that Anton will be wearing tomorrow night. I'll put it on myself. There we go. Imagine if I'm a small grey cat, and this is kind of what I'll look like. And he just wants to eat this. That's basically all he wants. So it'll last all of 2 minutes. So I'll get the pictures, and then I'll let him chill out and not worry too much. Yeah. Feed me. I mean, Anton does scream, feed me, basically. When it gets to about 3 o'clock, he does start screaming. So he's very, very like Audrey too. Except maybe he's not quite got the same... His singing voice is maybe not quite as good. So, I guess let's start. We've not got very many viewers in here today. That's fewer than normal. I don't know. I think the YouTube algorithm is just increasingly fucked. 18 is very, very small for one of my streams. I think we're increasingly seeing the world of fucked YouTube algorithms, but we'll keep going anyway. Let's talk about fascism. So, this paper that we've just published, or not published, just got accepted for publishing, called The Hidden Roots of Neoliberal Fascism. And I wanted to I'll give a wee sort of indication of the core argument that we make, just for, I'll make the video at some point, but yeah, it's nice to talk about, give a wee prefiguration of it. So essentially the argument for us is that neoliberalism, we are seeing a rise of fascism, and I think that's increasingly hard to deny. The US is clearly the paradigmatic case, others being Hindutva, India, Zionist Israel. Clearly fascism is on the rise. Beyond those paradigmatic cases, it's clearly on the rise in the UK, in Germany, in Italy, Greece, even Spain and Portugal have had increasingly far-right movements. Argentina, you've just had, there's probably, potential coups, and probably going to be a far-right installation in Venezuela. So there's a clear far-right turn. And that far-right turn, we argued, isn't a reaction against neoliberalism, which is where a lot of the standard arguments are being made, that, people are unhappy with neoliberalism, people are unhappy with the status quo, and they're reacting against it, and that means this fascism is a sort of revolutionary break from neoliberal hegemony. And that builds off some classic debates within fascism studies. To what extent was classical fascism a break from liberalism, a revolutionary break from liberalism, or a development of it? And these are debates which have gone since fascism emerged. These debates have been going on. On the sort of side that fascism is a break from liberalism, you've got sort of famous scholars like Roger Griffin, whose argument is about fascism is a revolutionary break based on a palingenetic myth, which is a myth of national rebirth, which rejects sort of liberal premises. But always you've had the sort of Marxist end who've been more, also been more sort of actually fascism is a counter-revolutionary movement about reinstituting and reaccumulating capitalism and failure. And those sort of Marxist arguments can be valuable in a lot of ways, but they also can tend to be quite mechanistic. they can be like, oh, capitalism is doing this to sustain itself, and it can be quite like teleological and mechanistic, like, oh, this is just a thing that happens when capitalism is in crisis. But our argument is different from both of those ones. Hello. How are y'all doing? Nice to see you come in. My accent sounds like chocolate. Fucking grand. Enjoy. The benefit of a good microphone. Our argument is a bit different from both of those. For our argument, we are saying not that emergent fascism in different places at this point is a revolutionary break from prior neoliberalisms, but an intensification of its already pre-existing features, namely things that we've been able to talk about in this video, in this article, where the gender and racial regime. And we are thinking of expanding this into a book project. We'll probably try and submit to Pluto Press first, because they're a good publisher and I like them. And upon that expansion, I want to include a lot on welfare, care work, and disability as well, because I think that is relevant for the emergence of fascism too. But in this article, we focus exclusively on the sort of racial and gender regime. And the argument basically is that as pre-neoliberal hegemony, what we call post-Fordist hegemony, the Keynesian era, post-war era, sort of golden age of capitalism, as that began to fray at the edges, as profitability crisis hit, as there were new social movements fraying the consent of the hegemonic construction, the people who new feminist movements challenging the patriarchal housing arrangements, the patriarchal family wage, queer movements challenging heteronormativity, racial justice movements challenging racial divisions of labour. These frayed the sort of capital relations of society, and alongside that, the increasing tenacity and radicalness of labour movements also challenged hegemony on its own ground. And that's like not necessarily on its own, that's not necessarily a particularly new insight. It's just an accumulation of stuff that people have previously argued. But our argument is that in order to sustain itself, in order to save capitalism, neoliberal hegemony was a way to reaccumulate those specific relations, to reaccumulate the gender relation through both reprivatizing social reproduction onto the shoulders of women, or through the market, and the market also depended on a massive import of cheap migrant labour, mainly women within the care sector. Lots of migrant labour also came in for farming and other agriculture, as part of the way in which organised labour was ejected from the hegemonic bloc, because and at the same time as organised labour was ejected, many ununionised women were moved into the workforce as well. But those women were simultaneously responsible for both working and care work, and so there's a general undermining of the basis of social reproduction, a general crisis of care. And this is just one of the many general crises that happened that are constitutive of neoliberalism. And our argument basically is that through both the migration regime, which is increasingly nationalistic, increasingly hard borders, increasingly based on an idea of the nation and invaders coming in, that racial organisation via the border, mixed with the increasing gendered regulation via social reproduction, mixed with an increasingly authoritarian state tendency, have all created the specific conditions for fascism to rise. And I think you can see that quite clearly in places like the US, where the migrant is such a strong figure of hate for the fascist state. the protection of the nation from this migrant infection, ICE raids, migration raids, promises to evict and expel as many migrants as possible. And crucially, you can see the consistency through the neoliberal period. Obviously, Obama, hugely anti-migrant. The Labour Party right now, hugely anti-migrant. But never anti-migrant enough for the fascists. And so that is essentially the basis of our argument. Fascism is emerging through the border, through the gendered social reproductive regime, and through the increasingly neoliberal statecraft of neoliberal hegemony, which we argue, we'd say the phrase we use is a state machinery which is ready-made for fascist domination. And that is basically all to say that unless we get our shit together, we're fucking cooked. So I'm glad that'll get published. Maybe it'll see the light of day before we all get, rounded up. We'll see. But it was a difficult review process, that article. We went through, we basically had the situation, which is a classic difficult situation when you're publishing, where we initially, on our first publication round, the reviews came back and one reviewer was like, this is incredible. This article seamlessly melds together key theories, evidence surrounding various different theoretical traditions, and merges it into a coherent argument about the emergence of neoliberal fascism. It's perhaps one of the best essays I've ever read. And then reviewer 2 was like, this is trash. This is trash, and I hate you. Please never write again. This needs to be thrown back against the drawing board, and you need to be ashamed of yourself. So we went through the review process and we edited it up, and we did what we thought was a good job. And the second review came in at a time which was not good for me over the summer. It was not a pleasant time. And the review came in, and it was the negative reviewer had remained, but it was another reviewer, reviewer 3, and reviewer 3 said, oh, this is brilliant, this is really great, I've got a couple of little points, but otherwise, yeah, I really like this. I don't see any sort of factual problems with this, I think that's really great. And then reviewer 1 said, I still hate you, and I hate this. And there's factual issues with your argument that makes it incomprehensible, and you should be ashamed. And so, because I was having a bad time at that point, there was not much I could do in terms of writing. So what I did was I got filled with spite. And spite, I don't know if anyone's ever known or written before, spite is a really good motivator for writing, for reading, for research. If you're ever worried about how, you want to do some research, you want to get into writing, find a way to be spiteful, because it's so useful. So at a time when I couldn't do much writing, I decided to spitefully do some reading, and I downloaded 40 articles and about 5 books, and over the course of a month read them all. And then in the course of my reviews for this round of reviews, I would write things like, in response to a factual thing, I'd say, as authors, and then I would list like 2 lines of authors have shown this is the case, and there's no factual disputing this. And we did this over and over again. And then, I was expecting this round that we'd get minor reviews back, because I was extremely spiteful and aiming things quite clearly at this author, at this reviewer. But we got the review back and they were just like, oh, this is incredible now. We love it now. This is great. So happy with this. And we all want to be happy with it publishing. So I guess the moral of the story is spite is great. And you can quote me on that. I love coming here and giving out pearls of wisdom like spite is great. But talking about spite, Ben Burgess. I saw an article in the New Left Review today, clearly aimed at the likes of Ben Burgess, the Jacobin. I fully confess almost all the 4+ paragraph long comments I've ever written were fueled by spite. 100% spite. Spite is the absolute. It's so useful as a form of motivation. It's so useful. But yeah, so New Left Review, which New Left Review as a publication, I have reservations about because they've been very poor on calling out, not even calling out, on describing Israel's conduct as genocide, and they've been the editorial board have been extremely fucking shit on that. So I don't necessarily want to promote them as a publication, but an essay was released in one of their issues this week, challenging the analytic Marxists of current, especially US based Marxism. For anyone who doesn't know, analytic Marxism, it's the tradition that people like Ben Burgess, that people in the Jacobin, people like Vivek Chibber fall into. And the description in the New Left Review, which I think is great and clearly motivated by spite, is essentially that these authors take Marxism and almost deliberately vulgarize it into basically rational choice theory, where they construct classes, people who fit within those classes. I would say they construct classes in a really haphazard way. Their argument is about how we slot into particular class positions dependent on our relation to the means of production. But their idea of what that means is so limited and so mechanistic that it's not really useful, and it becomes really vulgarized. So they'll say things like, the working class has a particular interest, and they know their material interests, and the reason why there's not a left-wing movement is because political parties haven't been speaking to the self-conscious material interests of the working class. And instead, the left-wing establishment politics has been captured by identity politics, or usually identity politics or wokeness or whatever. And those are not within the material interests of the working class. Now, there are obvious, immediate things that you can point to that make that seem like bullshit, because clearly, in many cases, identity politics issues are within the material interests of lots of members of the working class. Racialized members of the working class, women, gay, and trans members of the working class, clearly they have material interests in those kinds of politics. And it's part of this sort of analytic tradition is about universalizing a particular fragment, a construction of a particular fragment of the working class, the white male-waged worker, as the sort of emblematic ideal, which is universalized across the entirety of the working class. And their material interests are sort of upheld as like the correct way to go for the left. And New Left Review basically published this essay just being like, yeah, this is horseshit. And that's great. It's nice to see them do that, and it has inspired some rounds of some of the absolute worst, most dog shit fucking discourse on identity politics and class interests that you see popping up every now and again. Things like I recently read a collection of essays edited by Diane Elson on value theory, and value theory is useful for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that people who do value theory are very attentive to Marx's method, and particularly what dialectics, what the influence of Hegel is on those on that method. Analytic Marxists, crucially, will repudiate Hegelianism within Marxism because I say for some reason, because it leads to a proper use of Marxist theory, which means that you can't repudiate wokeness or identity politics anymore, and you have to create a particular kind of class position. But one of the central aspects of Marx's method is that this distinction that people have between the essence of something and the appearance of it. So a lot of analytic Marxists will see, these are two different things. Money is just the appearance of value. It's not value, whereas value is something else. It is the labor, and for those people, it's the labor time embodied in a commodity. But for Marx, form and appearance are not separate. They recursively interact with each other. The form influences and makes up the appearance, and the appearance of something influences what the form actually is. And that's really useful when you're looking at something like class, that kind of method, understanding what that means. So you can say something like, class is your relation to the means of production, and that is the essence of something. But that essence is not like the truth. It is just a constitutive factor of the form of appearance, and the form of appearance is necessarily exists through reality and can only be understood through reality, and recursively impacts what that original thing means. So when Stuart Hall says something like, race is the modality through which class has lived, which is a very famous Stuart Hall quote, he's not just saying that class is experienced through race. He's saying that race and class are mutually constitutive, because class can't exist outside of the lived existence of particular subjects and of particular groups. And that means that lived existence, that concrete reality, recursively impacts what we understand as the essential feature, the core abstraction is. And people like analytic Marxists do not want to accept that at all. They'll say, racism is important. Of course racism is important, but racism is different from class, because for them, class has to be abstracted to something pure, something completely separate from the actual lived concrete reality in which class is lived. And I've lost my train of thought on why I'm talking about this, but I think we can all just agree that Ben Burgis is shit. So there's the question on whether this is why intersectionality is good. So I think there is a difference between this method and and intersectionality. And this is not to say that intersectionality, or people who use intersectionality, have done bad work. So much of intersectionality work is really good, but there's a difference in the construction. I talked about this in a video I did years and years ago on neoliberal feminism. There's a difference between intersectionality and this kind of dialectic thought, because intersectionality conceives of these things as separate. The original metaphor is that race, class, gender, they exist separately, or patriarchy, capitalism, racism exists separately, and then they intersect externally to themselves on an individual or on a group. And there's been developments in intersectional theory which tend further from that central metaphor towards something that is more co-constitutive. But none of them, once they get far enough away from that kind of external relation into the internal co-constitutiveness, they start becoming more Marxist, more dialectical, because these things are not external. They are completely internally constitutive of each other. Class doesn't exist except through race. It doesn't exist except through gender. Similarly, gender doesn't really exist except through class. These things are all concretely interrelated and mediated through each other. Their boundaries are porous. They exist on different levels, both in any way you look at it. So there is a difference between intersectionality and this kind of thought, which is important, but it's not to say that intersectionality is bad or anything. And this is why workerist behaviour led back to capitalism, because it affirms the worker as a worker. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. It's a kind of reification of the categories of capitalism, and because a lot of these people are themselves, middle class academics and journalists, deciding what the material interests of the workers are, they end up bringing their own ideas of what that means. And they end up bringing together, making arguments for basically distributive problems, better wages, better working conditions, rather than something more radical, which is like the abolition of class itself, the abolition of the value form. It also allows them to do things like take the worker in the global north as the avatar for the material conditions of all workers, and allows them to say, well, things like are evil because they go against the material conditions of the workers, and the material conditions of the workers in the global south who are producing endless commodities, or producing agriculture, or producing minerals for vehicles and mobile phones, or are bearing the brunt of climate catastrophe because of the consumptive habits of workers in the global north. Those workers' material interests are less important. They are completely. Oh, hi, Kian. We've Kian Aspinall in there. We were just talking about our article. So if you've got any more questions, you can direct them at Kian. Yeah, so that kind of workerist view always ends up privileging a certain segment of the working class as a whole, usually white men in the global north, at the expense of the varied, contradictory, diverse interests which don't exist externally to workers. It's not like there's objective interests like they're objective in the sense that they are part of the concrete material reality in which these people live, but that means that they're often in contradiction because different people exist in different places. It's a far more nuanced and complicated theoretical apparatus than anything that analytic Marxists in the Jacobin will ever be able to overcome, to deal with. They just cannot countenance it, and it's why so much of their writing is so dog shit, and why they've become a kind of joke over and over again. Oh, Jacobin's produced another article. Like, even their film criticism is a joke, because they can't. Everything is so mechanistic in how they deal with class relations or interests and everything. So basically, what I'm saying is that I'm glad that New Left Review put that article out, and that someone is finally making a case in more institutional left spaces about the negativity of that style of Marxism that has gripped the US in particular over the past, couple decades. One thing that was also that I think is so leads ultimately to separation and therefore political weakness and effective methods. So I talk about in the video on wokeness that I did, and why my defense of wokeness, and in the article that I wrote for New International magazine, I talk about this because their argument is about how, like, the argument from these people, from these anti-woke leftists who are by and large analytic Marxists, is that they are the ones who are doing universalism. But you are right that they are actually the ones who are doing separation, they are the ones who are splitting up the labour movement through the exclusion of certain groups, through the suppression of certain interests, and through discouraging certain people to become involved in labour movements. As I say, why would you, as a woman, or as a queer person, or as a racial minority, want to get involved in an overtly racist, misogynistic organising space? Take, for example, the new head of the RMT in the UK, militant union, powerful union. The new head of the RMT, a man called Eddie Dempsey, long history of being on the right-wing social conservative side of the political spectrum, widely understood to be a member of Blue Labour, social conservative kind of folk. And he recently wrote an article basically making a bunch of dog whistles about how people have legitimate concerns about their demographic changes, which he connected with crime in their neighbourhoods, and was doing a kind of sort of vulgarised similar thing. And it is exclusionary. Why would anyone be involved in a movement like that that excludes them? They won't. And so you can never... The argument from the analytic Marxists is that we are doing universalism, and it's wokeness that's dividing the left by pointing out that there's differences, racial differences and gender differences, when really we have the same material interests. Whereas I would argue, like, similarly to Aimé Césaire and others in the sort of tradition of Aimé Césaire, that only true universalism, only true unity can be done through acknowledging and working through the differences that exist between us. We will never have solidarity. You can't have solidarity with people by denying that there are differences. Solidarity is dependent on differences. It's one of the weird things that a lot of these people claim, is that they claim that the woke or identity politics creates an idea that there's no such thing as solidarity between groups. But they're the people who are actually claiming no solidarity, because they're claiming that we're the same, that we are fundamentally the same and have the same difference, the same interests. And how can you have solidarity when you are the same? You're not making anything, you're not standing in solidarity with someone else's struggle. That's just you fighting for your own interests, right? Solidarity implies difference in the struggle. the only true solidarity is solidarity dependent on difference. And that always annoys me when they talk about how the wokes have no concept of solidarity. We're the ones who do. We're the ones who do have a concept of solidarity. FD Signifier explained it by pointing out that black GIs were cut out of the New Deal. How can black labourers be expected to join an effort that doesn't make guaranteed ensure they share in equality? Yeah, I mean, black GIs, Native Americans, women often excluded from, not even excluded, their interests subsumed within the family wage, the patriarchal construction of the family, reinforced via the New Deal. Obviously, these are various different ways in which the class interests of those different groups are subsumed under the interests of the white worker. Proceeding through the tension, not disavowing the tension nor collapsing it. Exactly. That's exactly it. And I think one of the interesting sort of and most bizarre manifestations of this has been all this stuff with the US Senate candidate who got a Nazi tattoo. Yes, and then how's it going? We were just talking about how I was talking about how spite is a great motivator for writing, and that led me into talking about how the Jacobin and Ben Burgess and the analytic Marxists are shitheads. And now we're going to talk about Graham Plantner, the guy who has the Nazi tattoo. I think it's an interesting intersection between this sort of tendency of this style of Marxism, which is so taken over so much of American discourse, left discourse, that they have reduced anything that is not within the sort of sorry. Sinan, I'm sorry. You should. I hope you've got someone around to help cheer you up, because that doesn't sound great. I am not a little bit drunk, but I'm aiming to be, and we can try and produce a good mood out of that, or at least get angry and make fun of people's shit politics together. So the Plattner thing is interesting to me, because he gets sort of this sort of notion that he represents the material interests of the workers because he is a progressive. Oh, you're also drinking it. Oh, nice. I like Tamash, my flatmate, started buying these, and I just think they're nice. I just think they're neat. They're very drinkable, and they should pay me for the fucking sponsorship. Yeah, and fucking, I'll get through this sentence if it kills me. The way that he is presented as the material interests of the workers, and there was a weird tendency for a bunch of these people, Ben Burgess included, to describe anyone who was, I guess, a little bit concerned by the fact that a Senate candidate had a Nazi tattoo, which he either didn't know was a Nazi tattoo, which indicates that he's a fucking idiot, or more likely that he did know and just didn't care for 20 years. Calling anyone who was worried about that, what was the word Ben Burgess said? Prim little hall monitors, which I do think weirdly misogynistic, and if directed at men, weirdly homophobic. But people kept bringing up this hall monitor point. Like, what's this? Like, if a hall monitor's like, hey, this guy's a fucking Nazi tattoo, that's a good hall monitor. I think that's a hall monitor is excelling at their job if they're like, hey, man, you've got a Nazi tattoo on your chest. I want to know when people presenting themselves as progressive have Nazi tattoos. I think that is an important thing to know about someone. And beyond the Nazi tattoo, like working for fucking BlackRock and talking about how much he loved working in Abu Ghraib prison. Like, these are all things which should be disqualifying for someone, but for some reason, I guess there's a sort of political need to leap on any positive. Blackwater, yeah, sorry, not BlackRock, Blackwater. You know, the basic starting salary for Blackwater mercenaries is on average £250,000 a year. And so when I see people saying, oh, this guy worked as a soldier and then an oyster shucker, that's a working class lifestyle, I'm kind of like, well, that's clearly that's not true. What you just said right there, this person is clearly not working class. What are you talking about? This person probably had an average starting salary of around $250,000. Like, that is the average salary for a mercenary at Blackwater. So if you're claiming this person has the material interests of the working class at their heart, you can be like, you're clearly having to fuck up the concept of class quite significantly. And it's like, I can understand a social democratic commentator being like, these are some serious things that this person has to answer for. They have to make a concerted effort to reach out to the people who are concerned about this, to talk about their Nazi tattoo, to talk about their very recent conversion away from working for the military industrial complex and making a lot of money, and they have to actually engage with the people who are criticizing them. I think that would be one thing. You could say, I still support this person, but I need them to actually do work to engage with folk. It's another thing to say anyone who's concerned about this is a prim little hall monitor. What's going through your head? Why are you acting like this? Yeah, he said he didn't know at the time, and then it subsequently came out that he knew well before it came out, and well before he got it covered up, that it was a Nazi tattoo. Like, that's been well established at this point. He knew, he may not have known at the time, which, firstly, suspicious, and also, come on. But he subsequently knew and didn't get it covered up until like a week ago, and that's mad. That's not a reasonable thing. It's not a reasonable thing. And then there's also the stuff about like loving working as a prison guard for Abu Ghraib or working for Blackwater until your mid-30s. It's like, what? Yeah, I think there is the sort of, and I've noticed it. Luke saying, I love how we just went through this with the the Klein Coates interview. When the electoral pickings are slim, people are tempted to collapse their values to match the path that's expedient to power. And I think I think we are seeing that in a similar way in a bunch of communist groups insisting that the only way to, or the best way towards a left politics in the UK is to engage with your party. And I've had several conversations that make me feel like I've stepped out of my body and entered the astral realm where nothing makes sense, where people are talking about, you know, the masses of the fucking working class existing in a party which does not exist, whose founding members are suing each other, and is made up of, at this point, landlords and social conservatives. But because it's like a thing that people can hold on to, suddenly everyone's like, yeah, this is where we're at. This is where we're doing, and we need to be clinging on to this one opportunity. And you're like, lads, come on. What's going on? What's going on here? Why are we doing this? Why are we like this? You need to chill out and maybe think of a different strategy, and maybe not jump on the first non-existent political party that exists at this point. I'm confused by a lot of this. It's confusing. All right, let's yeah, I mean, joining Blackwater does make sense, but it certainly doesn't make you working class, especially, you know, like, not on its own terms. It's the whole thing is just, I do think the thing that really gets me about it most isn't even that the guy exists and is being touted as a progressive. What gets me most is the media left reaction to people criticizing him or even having misgivings. That is obviously harmful to a healthy left movement, to describe people who are like, oh wait, hold on, this guy who had an actual Nazi tattoo until a week ago and a member of of the military industrial complex reported enjoying working for it. These are concerns, and I think the thing that really gets me is the people dismissing those concerns outright as innately illegitimate, and the weird gendered language that folk like Burgess use to describe them. That's not indicative of a healthy political culture, is it? Anyway, let's change up the music and then we can talk about someone else before I fully lose my mind. Do I think the kind of language like Ben uses is partly due to the pressure to be very adversarial in order to be noticed? Probably. I mean, I'm sure there probably is a dimension of it that is. I do think there probably just is a dimension of it that he is reactionary in many ways. Oh, that's really nice. What's your name? Sorry. Oisin McNeil. That's very nice to hear. That sounds like an exciting Masters to be part of. Say hi to Jason Hickel and Kohai Saito for me. Something weird going on with my synthesizer. I have to say, just didn't like that tune. The Frog Murderer. The Frog Murderer? Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Remember Luna, the Frog Murderer? She's now learning about praxis through learning chess. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna make a different tune because that one was annoying me. One second. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't remember. I did not remember your daughter killing frogs. But hey, I'm glad that they are that she is learning praxis. Well, I don't know what's going on with my synthesizer, but we'll figure it out. Let's just do something disco. I'm sorry, I can't get anything that I like. Everything just sounds a bit odd. Sorry, I'm gonna try something else because I don't know what. It just didn't sound right. That. Not got much else to say anyway. I'm gonna try and go until we'll make this the last tune, and I'm gonna try and go until 10 because I've got to get ready. I've got to clean my flat for this Halloween party. I don't know. I think there must be some loose connection somewhere because every time I try bass, it just gets really weird and noisy.
But we'll try and think of some way to fill this out a bit. Need to take a look at this pedal board. Something's up. Okay, I'm happy with that. We happy with that? What are we going to talk about now? We have about half an hour, 20 minutes left, and I'm not sure what to talk about now. I'm still easing into it. Is there anything on anyone's mind? We've got the next video, I guess, to talk about. So the next video is going to be on Ecoside. Again, another video on Ecoside, but this time we're going to focus on conservationism, the role that conservation has played increasingly in ecocide. And I'm trying out something new where I'm interviewing the author of a book about it, my friend Martin Crook, and we've already filmed the interview, so that'll be up. Like I said at the start, that's going to be up for patrons and channel members on Monday, and the video will be out for everyone next week or the week after, depending on how busy I am. I am going to a conference in Italy in a couple of weeks, which is going to include my contribution to the conference, which is a human rights conference at the Padua Centre for Human Rights, and my contribution is a paper titled "I Don't Care About Human Rights," hoping that goes down badly, and we'll see how. But we will see how that goes down at the Human Rights Conference. They let me in, so we'll see. I'm going to Bristol next week to lecture on Martin's course, actually, who is going to feature in the upcoming video on green conservationism and ecocide. And it's a really interesting conversation we had, actually. Martin's a great guy, and the other times I've mentioned him on this stream included a time where he signed on at the exact moment I was calling him a scatterbrain, and then I woke up to a 9-minute voice note from him. So we can all see that in its full glory if you're in a few weeks. Just bought a car and was slapped in the face by the obtuse, inscrutable, mysterious system called the used car dealership. I do not envy you. I am trying my best in life to never have to drive. I have my driver's license. I renewed my driver's license a few weeks ago. I have driven. I passed my driving test in November 2014, and I have driven once since then, in December 2014, when I was showing. I had some American friends over, and I drove them to one of the 4 castles that were within 15 minutes of where I grew up. Because, Scotland is just like that. And I drove them, and they were underwhelmed. And that's the reason why I've never driven again. One of the things that I was thinking about green transition politics recently for a number of reasons, and one of the things that consistently gets me, is just how much. So there's a few things that are interesting with green transition politics. One of the major things, and the thing that isn't talked about enough, is the fact that the notion that we are going to achieve green Keynesianism, a green industrial revolution which will lead to full employment within the global north, is completely farcical. It just won't happen. There are not enough jobs, and there will not be enough jobs to allow for that kind of manufacturing base that was at the bedrock of Keynesianism in the global north. It simply cannot happen. So all the fantasies about the Green New Deal are just that, they're fantasies. It will never happen. And there's the important political implications for that are things like we need to be, we can't just push through and reverse like the devolvement of manufacturing in the global north and create a magical mystery tour of 1960s global industrial heartland through green politics. We can't just do things that have been done before. We do need to completely reconfigure how we approach work, and how could there'd be enough jobs if each person was working for a short time. That's an essential aspect, is that part of it requires a complete reorganization of work and a drastic reduction of working hours. So we could reorganize the entire economy so that people were working in different ways. We could abolish systems of work that already exist, and there would be enough work. There is enough work to do, but it has to be a complete reconfigurement of how we understand work and industry. And that won't happen through green Keynesianism. It cannot happen through green Keynesianism. And Nick Bourret just released a book called Against the Transition, I think it's called, in which he talks about how, like, a number of things, that the green economy, the transition economy in the global north is not a manufacturing economy but a service economy, an installation economy. And that comes with a whole bunch of different implications, including service economy. Installation economy work is largely insecure, gig work. It does not have the industrial base. It's not organized in that way. And so we cannot just wait for a new wave of green jobs to appear. We need to completely reconfigure how our economy works. I've lost my train of thought again. But transition economies. One of the things that I was thinking about, and this goes to complete reformation of how we operate socially, is that we just need fewer cars. We need to drastically cut down on car use. We need to drastically cut down on car use, drastically increase public transport, make it free. As an immediate demand, public transport, investment in good transport links. It's so depressing looking at maps of the US, maps of Ireland, of the UK, and the total decline of their rail networks. And I would be happy if I never had to drive again. And part of that will be about I can pretend is about green transition politics. I don't want to drive. I want a network of good, fast, cheap, free at the point of use public transport to allow me to get wherever I want to go, so that I never have to drive again, because I can't be arsed with that shit. Every time you're on the road, there's some asshole doing something that would have killed you if you'd arrived 2 minutes earlier. Let's just do some trains. Do some trains. It's great. I love trains. I love going to the continent and riding on the double-decker trains. Who doesn't love a double-decker train? That shit's brilliant. I would never get tired of a double-decker train. And even things like Glasgow hasn't expanded its subway since it was built 1896 or something, 130 years ago. Third oldest subway in the world, I'll have you know. And Glasgow used to have a tram service before the acts of civic vandalism that trashed it in the 1960s. That they got rid of the tram system and instead ploughed a motorway right through the centre of Glasgow. That could easily be. We need to change how we operate in cities. One depressing thing that I actually heard that I would like you to commiserate with me about. Glasgow is currently undergoing a series of transformations. When I talk to friends from Glasgow, they talk about how the city is kind of dying in certain ways, and one of the things that's happening is like the central street, Sauchiehall Street. It's just dead. It's just filled with welcome Garden Greys to the channel members. I can't remember what the Cool Gang tier is, but you get like the early access to videos, and I think that's it. I can't remember. If there's anything else, message me. But all channel members get early access to videos. If it's the train chat that's got you thinking, yeah, this is a guy I need to support, then I'm fucking solidarity, mate. Glasgow. So Glasgow's lost a bunch of buildings, and part of that is the series of fires that happened, which caused a bunch of the buildings, including the O2 ABC, to close down. But recently, the one that really got me, Glasgow used to have the world's tallest cinema. And by that, what I don't mean is that it had the world's tallest cinema screen. No, I mean that the cinema complex. The screens were normal size, and the complex itself was tall. It was in a high rise, and it had a little plaque in front saying the world's tallest cinema. And I used to take friends of mine who were visiting Glasgow to go and see it, and they would go, "Why are we here?" And I'd say, "What's the tallest cinema?" And they'd go, "What?" And it would make me laugh every time. And one time the N fell off. It was a Cineworld, and the N fell off the top and crushed a car. And it's closed now. Just a few weeks ago it closed, and I'm devastated about that. What are they? They're probably going to replace it with fucking student flats or something. I think, and this is the heart of my politics, I think we need to have more tall cinemas. And if we just had more tall cinemas, the revolution would happen. I talk shite. I see no one's engaging with my tall cinema chat, which tells me that you're all fucking cowards who are not happy to stand with me on what is clearly the basis of my politics, which is tall cinemas. And because of that, we will probably there we go. Thank you, Luke. That's what you should visit Glasgow, and you should have visited Glasgow while the tall cinema still existed, but you can probably still see where the tall cinema used to be, because of course it's closed down now. You know, I mean, yeah, this is important stuff. And I save this stuff for later in the stream. I'm nearly, unless someone comes up with something fascinating that I feel like I need to talk about. This is going to be the note that we're ending on. And you know, we started with fascism. We discussed the minutiae of Marxian methods and why the analytic Marxists are wrong and bad. We discussed the failures to engage properly with reactionary forces, and now we've finally discussed the tall cinemas. What if the tall cinema inside a train? Couldn't happen. You've misunderstood completely. And I don't appreciate the glibness with which you're talking. The tall cinema, it's not that the screen is tall, it's that the cinema complex itself is tall. It goes up to like floor 15. I will never again experience the beautiful views of the Glasgow skyline as I leave Batman vs Superman or 302. Some of the terrible movies that I saw in in the world's tallest cinema. And those beautiful vistas of Glasgow were palate cleansers to seeing those dog shit movies. And isn't that what you need? Like, I'm leaving the cinema, it's all dark, I don't get a nice view, I've seen a bad film, what am I going to do? Whereas in the Cineworld, just off of Sauchiehall Street, you could get out of that cinema and be like, fuck, I just saw something that was trash. But isn't this view beautiful? And doesn't that make me want to hold on? Isn't life okay? As long as the tall cinema has the falling in is the thing that makes the cinema, doesn't it? And the fact that it crushed no one died. I just want to be clear, no one died when the end fell and crushed a car. It's just that the end from the Cineworld fell and crushed a car. And isn't that beautiful? I love it. And it's the difference. We've got a mall with a cinema in upstate New York. The thing is, what's beautiful about it is it's in the centre of the city. Like, tall cinema anywhere else. We've got a tall cinema. It's part of a mall. This tall cinema is in the centre of the city. That N could have killed someone so easily, but it didn't, because spiritually, the Cineworld, the tall Cineworld, was the perfect cinema, and it knew that. And if there is a God knew that when He flicked the N off of the tower and made it crush a car. Is it tall compared to ceiling? It's tall. It's tall. I don't know what to tell you guys. It's a tall cinema. The tallest cinema. The world's tallest cinema. I guess we should probably end there. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for listening. For anyone who wants to hear some actual thought, that's nearer the beginning of the stream at this point. Everything's done. My brain's done. And we will do this again. Not in 2 weeks, because I think I'm away, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. Sorry. I need to watch better films. No, because there's nothing more beautiful than when you've watched a good film, a great film, in the tall cinema, and you're elevated, and you walk out, and you're on the 15th floor, and the light hits you, the sunset over Glasgow, and however high you were, you can go even fucking higher because you've seen a beautiful film, and you're hit with a majestic view. You think you got me with that shit? I cannot be got. There's no cinema better than the tall cinema, and you will never convince me otherwise. The sequel to 3. Hey, that was my point, was that even if you've seen a bad film, the cinema elevates it. So if you've seen a good film, it elevates it even more. And I will say, the sequel to 300, maybe one of the worst films I've ever seen. And one of the, I think I was like 18 when it came out. One of those moments where you see a film and you go, oh, this is a bad film.
and it made me feel ugly inside. But we're done. I'm going to put us on the end screen. Thanks for coming again. New videos out soon. Streams up again. Next time, I'll fucking shout you out next time. I've got a stream coming up. Keep an eye out for when my next article is out, because I'll happily send it to anyone who wants to read it. And yeah, I will put us on the leaving scene and fanny around on the guitar for a wee bit while you all leave. I'll see you later. Thanks for coming.